is Michele Jaco, host of the Inside the Chapters podcast for the novel When I See the Wolf Ride. And here's a recap of what happened in Chapter 5 of Book 1. The guys in Lee's unit determined that Captain Avigdor is a good man who's been tracking Bosner and that he saved Lee's life by killing Bosner before he could pull the trigger on his gun and kill Lee. Now, the captain tells them Bosner wasn't the only officer doing this. There's another one, and he's worse. The captain is determined to find him and stop him. All the men pledge to help the captain on this mission. Lee hesitates because he doesn't want to put Dung in danger. So the captain takes them to a tiny orphanage hidden near a river where Dung can stay. And Lee finds out the captain has a young daughter there. After this, the captain briefs them on their mission. He believes this other officer will send someone to pick up Snake, who will flee to the base camp. Their mission is to track him and see where he's taken. But Burns interrupts.
What if Whitwell knows you shot Bosner and the others? What if he spills all that to the officers at the base? And what happens if we don't get there in time? Avigdor's face turned to an emotionless gaze into space. Then we may end up wishing we really were dead men.
Welcome to the audio production of the novel When I See the Wolf Ride, Book 1, Chapter 6. Copyright 2024 by Jeffrey Lee Neal. Read by the author. And now, here is Chapter 6 of When I See the Wolf Ride, Book 1.
Chapter 6. Snake Hunt. From the Bible. Their throats are open graves. They deceive with their tongues. The poison of asps is under their lips. Romans 3:13. The snake hunt was beginning. Captain Avigdor, Sarge, and Zapp moved Burns to the deserted compound where Bosner had first taken us. There were Prick 25 radios there. Zapp would use them to monitor comm traffic. Wolf and I would make our way back to base camp to track Snake. Being dead, we couldn't walk in. Wolf was one of the fastest runners I had ever encountered. We raced through the thick Vietnam brush. I could barely keep him in sight. Finally, I lost him. I reached the edge of base camp. Stopping, searching for any sign of him, I felt my body pulled down by my clothing. It was Wolf, motioning silence.
6-2. There's a stirring in camp.
We climbed trees to get a better view. I could see a jeep at the well-guarded entrance area, parked where it shouldn't be, at an angle. And then I saw him, Snake, being assisted by a couple of guards. He looks hurt. Wolf frowned.
He acts hurt. He's like the reptiles he collects.
The base commander hurried into the med tent where they had taken Snake. After a minute, he stepped out. The commander never checked out a wounded man that fast. Wolf felt the same way.
He got somebody's attention.
I nodded. We'll never get close to him in camp.
Then it's good he won't be there long.
I looked back at the Cherokee, puzzled.
The captain was right. They will come for him, and...
Now I could finish his sentence. We'll embed ourselves in his transportation. Wolf smiled.
I think you do have some Cherokee in you.
We moved through the brush near the front of the base camp. We were hoping a truck would show up. It would be hard to hitch a ride on a jeep. I was hungry and tired. Dusk became night. Bugs were biting us like we were a meat buffet. At least they had something to eat. It was early in the morning when Wolf woke me. A truck was there with the guards. Using the lights of the truck in the distance as a guide, we rushed through the darkness to get to the truck. Before we could get close, we saw them carrying Snake's limp body on a stretcher, then loading it into the back of the truck. We were too late. Even with Wolf's speed, there was no way we could catch it before it moved out. Wolf disappeared in the brush ahead of me. I could hear the rumble of the engine as the lights of the truck began to disappear behind the thick foliage. I knew I couldn't catch it, but maybe I could still get ahead of it. The road curved about 200 yards ahead. I felt a sharp pain from some branches cutting my legs. I knew I must have been bleeding by this time. In my mind, I could see huge thorns and mouths with teeth lurking in the swampy brush. The truck's lights flickered through the trees ominously, like the eyes of a predator. It hadn't gained a lot of speed, but it took everything I had to get to the road to catch it. The back was covered, so I had a good chance as it passed to grab something to hold on to without being seen. It was going faster than I thought. There was no more energy in my tank to run to it, so I jumped at it. I could feel sharp metal cutting into my hands as I held on. My feet were dragging the road. I grabbed one of the cables holding the back cover, so I let go with the injured hand. This put all of my weight on the other arm, and it felt like it would come out of the socket. At least I had enough presence of mind not to yell out in pain. I grabbed something else. I couldn't tell what in the darkness, but now I could get my feet up. As I pulled my head around to look in the back, I wondered if they would have a guard with Snake. A pair of big, strong hands grabbed me and pulled me into the back of the truck. I found myself next to 3 large crates. Snake, who was still unconscious, was lying on a cot on top of them.
What kept you?
The voice was not Wolf's. As I looked up, I saw the unmistakable smile of Hershey. He was holding a rifle. I was speechless. Hershey? He seemed to show no surprise at seeing me alive. Hershey laughed and put down the gun.
You ain't dead, but you look worse than dead.
I couldn't even speak. He bent over and helped me up to a seat, smiling again.
Hands bleeding, 6'2".
He gave me a handkerchief from his back pocket.
Wrap it in that. It'll slow the bleeding.
He smiled again at my confused look.
You wondering how I got here.
Finally, my words came. How did you...
How did I know you was alive? How did I get chosen to guard Snake Man on this truck? How did I know you was gonna get on this here truck?
Hershey smiled, and then his face became deadly serious.
'Cause I work for Captain Avigdor. He radioed me a couple of hours ago.
My expression must have preceded my words. Why didn't he tell us you were working with him?
Because he didn't trust that little weasel Burns. You remember when I warned you about Bosner?
Again, I nodded, still wrapping my mind around the expanding cast of characters here.
After we finished basic and transferred here, remember when they sent me away on a weapons detail in Cambodia?
Captain Avigdor did that?
He did.
My expression must have looked like a dog trying to understand a strange noise. Because of the mission? He laughed.
They considered you, but you were so filled with hate they thought you might like Bosner.
Now I smiled. That really made sense.
Captain Avigdor read me in on what Bosner was doing and how he had to stop him. How there's another officer out there doing the same thing. How we gotta find him and stop him too. How dangerous this whole thing is.
I searched his face for some hint of emotion. That would have scared a lot of guys off.
Scared people got something at home to go back to. But guys like you and me come from nothing, so we got nothing to lose. The captain put me back at our base camp to wait and see where he might go to get new recruits so they could transfer me there. It was dumb luck that he came to the camp we was at.
So why didn't Bosner take you?
Captain Avigdor couldn't figure that one out.
Then I saw hatred fill his face.
But I did. It was easy. He hated my skin.
I was in disbelief. This fool passed on a soldier of this caliber? Was he really that stupid?
You alone? Where's the wolf man?
We heard a noise coming from the front of the truck, and then a groan, as if someone were passing out. I smiled. Driving the truck, Hershey smiled too.
That crazy Cherokee could kill us all if he wanted to.
The truck was pulling to a stop. We jumped out of the back. Wolf exited the driver's side, seeing Hershey for the first time.
Hershey? Wolfman, you driving?
Wolf grinned.
Your driver is sleeping.
I glanced at Hershey. I'm just glad he didn't kill him. Hershey laughed.
Hell, I'm glad he didn't kill us.
Wolf smiled.
It's good to see you too, Hershey. Now, where are we going? Who knows? The CO himself told the driver to just head north. We would receive radio instructions at 0500 hours.
I looked at my watch. That gives us time to pick up Captain Avigdor, Sarge, and Zapp. I barely got the driver into the back of the truck before it was moving. I was wondering if Wolf could drive like he could run. From the way we were moving, it seemed a good bet. Somehow, Wolf trimmed a 2-hour drive into less than 90 minutes. We were almost out of gas when we reached the deserted compound where Captain Avigdor, Sarge, Zapp, and Burns were waiting. They had evidently heard us coming. All 4 were standing out in front of the compound, armed, watching us drive up. Captain Avigdor came to the passenger door, opening it before Hershey could get out. Hershey looked at his watch.
All we was told was to drive north. They said they'd tell us where at 0500 by radio. That's less than 20 minutes.
I got a quick lesson in rapid field command decision-making from Captain Avigdor. He put Wolf to work finding a tank that still had some gas in it to refuel the truck. He ordered Burns and me to bring the unconscious driver into the small building. Hershey and the captain compared all the info they had. They realized someone wanted Snake to disappear. Within 10 minutes, Captain Avigdor, Wolf, Hershey, and I were getting into the truck, ready to depart, with Snake still unconscious in the back. Sarge and Zapp would stay behind with Burns and the truck driver. Sarge would watch the men, and Zapp would monitor comm. We couldn't take the chance of the driver or Burns letting anyone know what we'd done. At least not yet. As Wolf and I climbed in the back, I asked Hershey how he got picked to be the guard for Snake. There was that knowing smile again.
They found the other guard passed out, drunk.
I searched his face more closely. Drunk?
Well, passed out as if he were drunk.
It seemed like only seconds, and we were moving. This time the captain was driving, with Hershey in the cab next to him, waiting for exact destination instructions from the base. As we bounced along, I looked at Snake, still motionless. He looks harmless now. Hard to believe what he's capable of. Wolf looked at him, as if he wanted to kill him.
He's like a cobra in a basket. Nobody ever died from the bite of a basket.
Then Wea Jones became uncharacteristically serious. It was as if the Cherokee warrior had come back from the 1880s.
You and I may meet our ancestors today, 6'2".
That made me mad. I'd rather make that thug we're chasing meet his ancestors in hell. Wolf stared into my eyes.
Do you fear your death?
It was odd to have the time for a soul-searching moment. It's kind of funny. When I was first drafted, I think I wanted to die. But now, I only fear death because I don't want to break my promise to Dung. I considered the possibility this Cherokee warrior had a soul. Do you have anybody you care about? He smiled.
There is a woman. She's not Cherokee. Elizabeth has beautiful brown hair that glistens with red hues in the sunlight. Her nurturing spirit reflects Mother Nature. She has a soul that embraces me, that makes me a new and better man when we're together. I can see our family, our children, and our lives in the future.
She sounds beautiful. Do you have a picture of her?
Not here, only at base camp. I have this fear that thoughts of her would distract me, make me weak. A warrior should focus on the task and the enemy.
He touched the circular amulet he wore around his neck. It appeared to be clear quartz with a small piece of wood embedded inside.
In the Cherokee tradition, we consider certain woods sacred. Maple for the red-tailed hawk clan, oak for the deer clan, and this one, Ariwan. Hickory, the sacred wood of the wolf clan.
He shrugged like a child.
I don't know if the wood is sacred, but it's something I treasure. A connection to home and family.
He smiled.
So, if there is such a thing as a blessing from a sacred place, this little amulet will bring it.
Looking back at me, he became serious again.
You and I may die together today. I don't want to die next to a stranger.
Taking a knife out of its sheath, he purposely cut his hand open and gave the knife to me.
I want to die next to a brother.
Cherokee tradition?
No, I saw it in a movie. But it'll do for you and me.
I took the knife, cut my hand open, and clutched his bleeding hand as hard as I could. Brothers.
Brothers.
Hershey popped his head into the back from the cab's window.
We got our destination.
Hershey paused, looking worried.
It's close to Da Nang.
That concludes Chapter 6. We invite you next to read the PDF or listen to Chapter 7, entitled Cave of Death. We also invite you to listen to our podcast for Chapter 6, in which Michele Jaco talks with Jeff Neal about the story, the characters, and the symbolic elements within the chapter. Music for this production was licensed from the Smart Sound collection, and cover art was created from Adobe stock images. Some voice work was enhanced by AI technology from 11 Labs.